But without doubt, better than never, Alan Whicker meets more Poms down under in Whicker's World.
Dawn in Sydney. Perfect setting, near perfect climate, and a magnet for migrants. In this second city of the Commonwealth, clinging upside down to the bottom of the world, yet twice the size of Birmingham and Manchester combined, the day begins as usual when Sydney's dustmen, the Garbos, go dancing their daily minuet through the dawn streets. The flow of immigrants has softened and illuminated Sydney. Jim Jaggs came from East Ham to find a better way of life. For this young, strong city is one of the world's great promises, a pledge of better things to come.
This is nice, clean rubbish, all this, right?
So they say around this area.
In this street. It's upper class rubbish, this, right?
Neutral Bay, they say it's upper class.
Ah.
But the smelly stuff's not out yet because it's not summer yet.
Even in the gentle winter, a Garbo's job is popular because under this private enterprise garbage collection system, their money has to be exceedingly good. And although Jim and Sam need to get up at 2:30, their working day finishes around 9. Though it still doesn't seem a job that's good enough to entice anyone here from the other side of the world.
How is it the Poms get into this business? Because I thought it paid so well that the Aussies kept it for themselves.
Oh, we keep them out, don't we, see? No. There's a few Pommies at the firm, but most of the Australian guys, you know.
The job suits people like footballers who use the daily jog around the streets of this overwhelmingly suburban city as part of their training. The Pommy Garbos know about their standing on the Sydney social scale, but they're not too worried because they're laughing all the way to the cart.
We're second rate
Only
to
if we don't pick their
prostitutes.
bins up.
Now, there was a thing in the Daily Mirror the other day, the prestige rating on jobs, and they rated us second to prostitutes.
Was it under or over?
Second to...
Below?
No, they were the lowest and we were second lowest.
Oh, you were above that?
It was just above the prostitutes, actually. It was pretty good, really.
We worked the same hours.
I thought we'd come a close second, yeah. We don't get the dough they do, though.
No, we work the same hours, though.
What? And you
Sleep all day and
do you
work all
get the
night.
job satisfaction? That's the thing.
I don't know.
It's 8:30 now, and the refuse they've gathered is off to the tip, while Jim is off to his home in his new utility. The rest of the day is his own. He lives 10 miles away, up in the northern suburb of this city of 3.5 million people, but at this time in the morning, he's always heading against the rush hour traffic. Coming into town, the commuters in these dreadful daily jams have 9 radio stations to keep them company. Long before television arrived, radio was vital and viable in Australia, welding distant homesteads together, talking and selling to the concentrated suburbs of the 5 cities and to solitary men in cars.
John Laws, keeping abreast of the times. Oh, I hope he keeps one for me.
I would just like to simply agree with your statement earlier on, John, about how you don't get anywhere in this world if you're female and you don't have a huge bosom.
You've got to have boobs, so be kind to your flat-chested friend. Tomorrow she may be bigger than you are. You start out with A cup and wind up with E cup. Silicone's a girl's best friend.
be in Sydney's biggest classifieds. Who you gonna call?
Herald Classifieds.
Thanks for calling, but I've sold the car.
A powerful backroom figure on the huckstering Australian radio scene today is the son of an East End postman who emigrated in 1980 and is now the brains behind much of the conspiratorial chat that pervades these early morning airwaves.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
I love you, John.
I want to know what condom is.
You want to know what?
Condom.
You want to know what a condom is?
Yeah.
I see. How old are you?
Yeah. Oh, me?
Yes.
42.
42, and you don't know what a condom is?
No, I've been looking, in my dictionary, I can't find it.
Anyway, I'll tell you what it is.
Yes.
Are you married?
Yes.
I see. Do you have children?
Yes.
Masses of them, I know. A condom is a contraceptive device. Do you know what a contraceptive is?
Yes.
Good. Well, a condom is a contraceptive device that is worn over the penis during intercourse. It is known as a contraceptive sheath.
Over what?
Over the penis. Don't tell me we're going to go into that.
What?
You
Peanut?
something like that.
The morning air over Sydney quivers with the curious quality of the Australian call-in, organised by this chap from Walthamstow, who became sales director of the failing 2GB station and took it to the top of the ratings, mainly by making it an all-talk station at the time of the Falklands War, when international news suddenly mattered even to Australians. Nigel Milan is now Deputy General Manager of the Macquarie Network.
I've read this week that you're paying one of your top performers for a lifetime contract, $12 million. Is it possible?
It's certainly $1 million plus a year, radio announcer.
$1 million, that's £500,000 a year.
Yes.
How does he, how can you pay that sort of money? How can he generate?
Well, he brings us so much money with him. Something we can do in Australian radio that you can't do in commercial radio in the UK is that the announcers can actually give live reads to commercials and actually endorse products. And a large part of John's income comes from his own portfolio, if you like, of advertisers that are loyal to him, in some ways even above the station.
I do detect that some of your presenters seem to trivialise the news here. They patronise it.
Yeah, I still can't accept that. I just think that we entertain with the way we present news. So there's a lot of hard news comes through, but it's in a more entertaining function. I think also Australians are a very unprofound race. I don't think they enjoy sort of pompous, profound statements, and I think that's part of the personality, and that's part of the way 2GB presents itself in the marketplace, is a very unpretentious radio station, in the sense, yes, we're news talk and we know about the news, but we're communicating to you one-on-one. Whereas I think it is, at its worst, the BBC can often talk down to you. You are the audience, we are the BBC.
If there's 100 dead in an earthquake, they're treating it seriously. They're not giggling about it and putting it in with too banal other subjects. I've heard one of your presenters, Mike Carlton, switch off the BBC World Service. And that was an insert that I'd been hanging on, waiting to hear, and I think it's the bright spot on your schedule.
Well, that's the arrogance of an Englishman, Alan.
But I'm waiting to hear what's happening in the world. No, that's what's important, and I don't want my news patronised and trivialised. I want it straight. Oh, I don't think he was trivialising the news. I think he just stopped the news and said that obviously he thought it was a spectacular sunrise that particular morning. I mean, the BBC World Service is not the be and end all if you happen to be living in Sydney. And if it's world news is, you see. World news is quite important, and he's suggesting that news from the outside world is irrelevant, and it isn't.
Ah, no. No, I don't think that's what it was suggesting. I didn't hear the particular piece of airtime that you're talking about, but I suspect what Michael was saying is that it's a particularly beautiful sunrise this morning. The world news, there isn't much of it. I mean, sometimes a lot doesn't happen. I mean, you're a journalist yourself, Alan, and sometimes you can be very pushed for a story, and even the BBC World Service gets a bit pushed now and again.
Your top men here, they do seem curiously patronising and sometimes very rude to the people who call in. How can you explain that phenomenon to me?
Yeah, I can't explain why it works, but to an extent it's true. We certainly have one or two announcers that take a very aggressive line.
They're horrible.
Well,
I've heard them jeering at uneducated people who call in. I've heard them ridiculing foreign accents, and they get terribly cross if they get an articulate person who is winning an argument, and they turn them off. They have to score off them.
Yeah, but they still ring in, you see. I mean, the interesting thing is that, I mean, if you take someone, probably the archetypal proponent of that style of radio is a gentleman called John Pierce, who's or has a 30 or 40-year history in this business. And John is a very aggressive announcer, tends to, trivialise the argument of the people that ring in.
And sneer at them.
That's right. But they know that before they call. And in a way, they ring in to do battle with John, and the audience expects it. John Pierce, on a human level, is one of the nicest men you could possibly wish to meet. And so what you get is really a stage performance. It's a piece of theatre, of audio, radio theatre.
What does this tell us, Nigel? What does this tell us about the Australians? Because they're a most amiable people. Do they enjoy a display of public arrogance and bullying and bad manners?
In a way, Australians do like to hold a fairly low opinion of themselves in some ways. And
it's a streak of masochism, isn't
yes,
it? I was listening
yes.
to this man this morning,
yeah.
sneering and abusing some school teacher who called in with a very intelligent and thoughtful point. A, why did she do it? And B, why do other listeners enjoy hearing this intelligent woman ridiculed?
My favourite line for Australia, it's the land of short puppies. In the sense that we are that working class ethic. I once heard Pilger actually say in a UK television production, Pilger being an Australian journalist doing a special on his own country, where he quite sneeringly said that Australia was the English working class sat down in paradise. And that's why I came, because I'm working class and I don't see why I shouldn't live in paradise.
Can I send you a bottle of lover's liqueur?
So over Paradise and Rubbish Dump pours the ceaseless cacophony of Sydney's 9 competing radio stations.
And Debbie, when you get home, do something to brighten him up. Sit on his face or something, for God's sake. This man is a bore, Debbie, that you've married. A lovable little child like you. Down there, tampering with $100 bills. Rub them all over your body, Deb. Make yourself adorable. But don't worry, his heart's in the right place. Well, part of it, I think, might be in his mouth.
It's not the kind of house you'd see in East Ham.
No.
So, I mean, what have you got up
Take
there?
care.
It's an extraordinary-looking place.
It's called a pole house.
A what?
A pole house.
Pole house, yeah.
By 10 o'clock, Jim Jaggs, the dustman, is home. And what a home.
It's constructed on poles, and it's especially for steep blocks. You're on 20... This one, actually, is on 24 of these poles. And they've got these bracing here on each pole that goes across and holds the floors up.
And how many rooms have you got above here?
There's 3 bedrooms, family room, lounge, kitchen, 2 bathrooms, and the laundry room. And you can feel it move, actually, when you come up here. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to move.
Who collects your garbage?
I don't know. I never see them.
They did come here, do they?
Yeah, they do come, yeah, but we have to leave it down the bottom there.
Now, what about the neighbours in a place like this? I mean, this is a classless society. Are they a bit snooty about having a garbo as a neighbour?
They've never told me. No, they're not. Actually, they're really nice people. They're great people.
It's a sort of paradise, isn't it?
It's lovely. It's beautiful.
Yeah. After East Ham, bless his heart, but East Ham is still...
Yeah, you don't... I don't suppose you get this... Well, you wouldn't get it around that way.
Now, what made you leave the reassuring warmth and friendliness of the East End of London for the Pacific?
A lot of Pakistanis started to move around our way, and things got a little bit bad with there was bomb scares started then in the shopping centres and places like that when the RIA was in. This was in 1973.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit. And a bit of disillusion, really. When we worked hard on the house that we had, we really borrowed the money, we worked hard, put a new roof on, done the house up.
East Ham?
In East Ham, yeah.
Mm.
And I didn't seem to be getting anywhere, you know.
And you felt there were too many Asians about?
Yeah, there was, yeah.
See, a lot of people would say that travelling halfway across the world to become a dustman is an odd sort of ambition. I mean, they wouldn't, if they hadn't seen a place like this that you're working for.
Yeah, but it's much better dust here too.
It's a better type of dust.
Yeah.
Yes. You're not the Asians of Sydney.
I never regarded myself as the Asians of Sydney, actually. I hope not.
So, I mean, you've done yourself a bit of good by coming out here.
Very much so, yeah.
Would you consider going back to England?
No, I wouldn't consider going back. The children really like it here. Well, they don't know anything else, you know. And my wife definitely wouldn't go back. She'd lose her tennis partner for a start off, so that'd be out. So we wouldn't consider going back.
But it's something to work for, Jim. I think you've done the right thing here.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the place, and it's really worth working for. It is. There's lots to do. There's a lot more to do, but it's been, I wouldn't say real fun doing it. I mean, lugging up that bloody hill down here with a few logs. It wasn't much fun. But it was good fun seeing the missus knock the cement up for the blocks. That was really good.
She got the hang of it, did she?
Oh, in the end, yeah. After she got rid of the... Oh, it's great.
You need a wife to clean out the stable, don't you, really? The traffic's a bit noisy here.
Yeah.
Oh, these are your buses?
Yeah, that's the bus there. That's the bus to Monaval.
Well, that's useful for your children.
Oh, for the kids, it's great, yeah. It takes them right outside the school. Pittwater High School is just down the road.
Yeah.
5 minutes on the bus, 7 minutes on the bus.
Yes.
And, in the mornings, they go up and feed the horses in the mornings.
What horses?
Horses that they've got up at Bayview there. They've got 2 paddocks, and there's about 6 girls up there that've got these horses, you know. And they go up and feed theirs, and then they go to school after.
So they've got their own horses?
Yeah.
Your daughters have got their horses, your wife's got the tennis. But what do you do when you're not building the house? What do you do with the rest of your day?
I like to go down the beach for a couple of hours, but obviously I haven't had time for the last year or so. But
yeah.
I like to go for a swim. I had a catamaran I used to sell. I like to sell that to pay for the house. Or
it's
surfing.
a traditional Aussie life, really, isn't it? Here, I mean, green, good
fresh air, yeah.
Beach, sun.
Yeah, the beach is a big thing in Australia.
This is the kind of thing that the Australian Commission advertises, isn't it? When
this
it wants
right.
migrants,
yeah.
it says, come to Australia,
yeah.
be a dustman, live like a millionaire. Yeah.
Look at the sparkle on the sea, isn't that lovely? Just that feeling of space. And
didn't you find this sort of thing in England? I mean,
no, you went on holiday and you shivered on the beach at Brighton.
So it's just the weather that brought you out here?
The weather makes you feel wonderful. You don't wear a coat. I don't possess a coat. That sort of lovely feeling about being free.
Once a BOAC stewardess from Southgate, N14, Diana Fisher arrived in Australia in 1964 when her husband Humphrey, son of the then Archbishop of Canterbury, Lord Fisher, became BBC representative. Known, for good reasons, as Bubbles, she's the doyenne of Sydney's social columnists, media personality, and all-round good egg.
Have you taken Australian nationality?
Yes.
Have you?
Yes, I thought it was time I married into Australia because it was being kind to me and I thought I was giving it quite a bit of me so we got married.
And what about Humphrey?
Oh, well, he wants to, but he's a bit lazy. He hasn't got round to it yet. You know, he's sort of sitting waiting for somebody to fill in the papers and do the right things.
So this is where you get your costume for tonight?
Yes, from the Sydney Theatre Company. And they've just got the best wardrobe imaginable. You wait and see.
Tonight, she's due to cover the fancy dress opera ball, where Sydney socialites will be wining and dining in a good cause.
It's wonderful. How about that, Alan? Isn't that great?
It's a bit understated,
yes,
actually. It's not exactly Brooks Brothers.
Well, I do feel that the color coordination, it suits me. I had my colors done last year, and it does suit me. Like the face, the contrast of the...
Does it fit?
It's actually rather tight.
And what do you look like when you take it off?
We can take the chin strap out of it.
Good.
Oh, that's terrible. Put it back on. Diana.
Nobody loves the fairy when she's 40.
You should
Look, I thought I could come out of a Midsummer Night's Dream, but I really... No, I don't think you're allowed to look at the back. No, where's Graham? Were you going to push me, Graham? Were you going to push me into this? I don't think they'll go in, darling. No.
I think you should be at the bottom of my garden.
Look, I think I'll go back and get into the bottom of your garden. I mean, it was a lovely idea. I thought of being as something fun. How tight does this thing... Look, they don't go in, sweetheart. They just don't. Can we try another?
Yes, we can try another.
Do you mind if I disappear?
From the entire wardrobe of the Sydney Opera House, favoured ball guests can easily find some distinctive operatic costume that absolutely suits their personality.
That's marvellous. I think that's famous. That's better.
Would you dance with me?
I think that's it.
I don't think I can have tin tits all night. My Valkyrie hat will fall. I don't think I'm too good on the mountain tops.
Darling, I think it's better for you, actually, and I think it's more comfortable. I think it's more comfortable, and you'll be able to eat.
Yes, I'll be able to. There's room to fill up there. See, they're empty underneath.
I asked tonight's Valkyrie what had attracted her to Australia 22 years ago.
It was the open-heartedness. Tall blue skies, wonderful vast country, which, sad to say, looks like it's being ruined by the government. But I mean, if we dismiss that, it still has golden beaches for miles and miles, sea that's crystal clear, and it's just wonderful. It gets you. Oops, excuse me.
Careful.
Yes, keep those things in shape.
What about the people, though?
At first, I think it was freer and easier. There was a Liberal government, and it was, I think, more liberal. And everybody was very welcoming. They're open-hearted, they're good people. There was an ebullient feeling about it, which, sad to say, has changed. But a lot of things have changed. I mean, the restaurants have changed and become much better. The food is much better. We've got all the ethnic people coming in. We have wonderful things. Yes, it's changed, and I feel it's sad at the moment. I feel it's like England was when the unions got at it. It was sort of down in its boots and a bit down at heel. But we've no need to be. We have all the resources. We have everything here. We just need to do an honest day's work.
Now, you've retained your pomminess, haven't you, really?
Yes.
Your accent and your attitudes.
Oh,
really.
my mother says I say party and Sydney. She said, oh, you do sound Australian. I said, well, not really. No, people say I'm sort of middle of the road.
And yet there's some xenophobia here. Some of the poems here have said.
There's some of them, you mean, frightfully?
No, I think some English here find that there's a bit of hostility towards them.
Well, they had that awful thing labelled, you know, the whinging Poms. Forget it, it's gone. It was a certain class that came out here and kept saying, oh, it's not like the pub at home, and, oh, you can't get fish and chips. Well, you can. You go to Doyle's, it's absolutely scrumptious. Can I take this funny horn off?
Do. Can I lift it up?
I'm getting a bit hot.
Gosh, hello, Dinah.
Hello, it's me.
It's you all the time.
Yes, darling, it is.
Now, Dinah, you write a society column with a sort of chit-chat that we haven't seen in England since the 50s, really.
Well, yes, when I first came and I opened these papers and the magazines and I saw all these funny names, I thought, who on earth are these people? Who do they think they are? Because the Tatler in England is full of dukes and the Honourable this and Lord that, and Princess Anne's gone here and Diana and Charles are doing something else. Well, I suppose because we don't have them so near, we make up our own society. So all the great charity occasions, like, you know, me making a fool of myself and going tonight, there are people who star in those sort of charity events, and they form perhaps the nucleus of the society that we write about. We all know who they are. You've just got to get to know them, that's all.
I mean, there's still a market for writing about the goings-on of the almost rich and the nearly well-known locally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, different stratas, different rungs of the ladder, whether you're in sport or theatre or films, if there's a grand occasion, everybody wants to know about it. So they want to get their picture in the paper. So you run from art galleries to opening nights to charity balls to a grand occasion, opening of a hotel, whatever it might be. And you'll see all sorts of people from all walks of life. And of course, the sporty people are getting the money. So the money people, we're coming back to the old thing. I guess if you have the money, you're at everything and in everything.
Len Evans, our friend, tells me that there's absolutely no interest in Britain here anymore.
Oh, do you want to bring a royal personage out? You want to bring a star out? You want to bring Sir Laurence Olivier out? There'd be a queue a mile long to see them.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they love the things, I think, that are British, that have made the grade, that are the stars. I mean, they love stars. And if you've got a title, my dear, they'll be swanning around you.
I mean, you never thought of fleeing back to Southall and back to Middlesex?
To Southgate?
Southgate.
No way. I have a host of wonderful friends here. I feel totally at home. No, I couldn't live in England again unless I married a millionaire. I don't think that's likely.
At lunchtime in downtown Sydney, office workers emerge to absorb another perfect day in paradise. Despite its setting and sunshine, Sydney can be a bland and rather expressionless sort of place without much personality or sentiment, and rather more steely than it seems. In its Long Bay complex of jails, 1,500 hard-case convicts are guarded by 900 warders. From the outside, this correctional centre may look like Wormwood Scrubs, but once inside, it's obvious there's a different attitude towards crime in Australia. John Akerster, the minister responsible for corrective services, was abandoned in a Lake District workhouse 50 years ago and brought up in a Cumbrian orphanage. He didn't meet his mother until he was 43, but, in the best Dickensian tradition, became a New South Wales cabinet minister. He'd emigrated in 1963 and was an MP in '84 when handed the state's political hot potato behind bars.
Yes, but this is all high security.
This is maximum security, yes. And we have a hospital, our own hospital in here. That section there is the AIDS jail, where people affected by AIDS are kept. And see, we have armed guards.
Any breakouts here? Any successful?
Very rarely. We get about 3 breakouts a year.
A British prison fleet landed near here exactly 200 years ago, intending to create a gulag for an entire criminal class. That penal colony plan died away after 80 years, and today there's no one criminal class, for corruption reaches right through society, up into parliaments and judiciaries. Even in this lucky country where an unwanted orphan can become a successful minister.
I doubt if you'd be a cabinet minister in England now.
I doubted it as well.
Are you saying that things are easier here, or that standards are lower, or that there isn't the competition?
No, I'd say standards are higher. There's greater expectations of a person, but on the other hand, if you can demonstrate you can do the job, that in many cases is sufficient for you to get the job. The necessity to have been to a certain school, to have reached a certain educational level and so forth, is not so urgent here as it would be in Britain.
Certainly, these seem to me to be the least cowed prisoners I've ever seen. I've been in a lot of jails in a lot of different countries. I mean, they're totally, it's a man-to-man situation. It's like being the Australian Army, isn't it?
Yes, the Australian culture is quite different to the British culture. Here, because we were founded as a penal colony, there is a very strong streak of larrikinism runs throughout our society at all levels.
What does that mean?
That means an anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian attitude.
Yeah.
And to try and impose a very strict, minute discipline code on Australians would be counterproductive. You would have to run the place like a concentration camp and do nothing but force people to salute you or to stand to attention or to call you sir. And the result would be that you would never have time to have work experience, education experiences, social skills training. In other words, there'd be no chance of rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation for 2 of the convicts, one of them serving 15 years for bank robberies, has been the painting of this mural.
It's based on Michelangelo from the Sistine Chapel. We've also included some other figures, though. They're the famous statues in Rome. The basic theme of it is on crime and punishment, and we've got God up there from the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah, it was taken from the creation of Adam, which was one of Michelangelo's. I feel it was one of Michelangelo's greatest paintings. And with the statues, there was the Laocoon, which I feel was one of Michelangelo's greatest sort of inspirations in all his work. And the rape across spine on the left, which to us depicts part of the criminal element within the painting itself.
And further down on the bottom, we've got St. Bartholomew, and he's also from the Sistine Chapel. But we've taken a flaying knife out of his hands. That's meant to be his own skin that was flayed off him. And we've put a set of scales in his hand instead of the flaying knife. And we've got blood in one side of the scales and money in the weighed down side, which to us makes a statement on the injustice sort of thing, or the creation of injustice.
what are they in for in general? Is there a breakdown?
In this particular jail, they're in for every conceivable type of crime.
I mean,
Drug peddling, murder, rape, child molestation, arson, fraud, forgery, car stealing, anything you can think of. Somebody in here would have done it.
All these young ladies wandering around in the centre, that's quite extraordinary, I find.
Yes, we've done that quite deliberately. These jails used to be exclusively male, and we have found that by introduction of female prison officers and an additional number of nurses, educationalists, welfare officers, women, they've modified the behaviour not only of the prisoners, but of the officers as well. Like any army camp, if you put a lot of males together in a confined area, you tend to descend down. Your language, your behaviour, your expectations drop and drop down to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah. One of the warders told me that 70% of their number here are POMs.
It wouldn't surprise me. I'm not sure what the figure is because we don't keep figures of that description. But it's certainly a great many of our warders are POMs.
Well, why is that?
They present very well at the interview stage. Many of them are ex-servicemen, and because the POMs are a more disciplined race, and because they're ex-servicemen, of course, they look good at the interview stage.
It's just perpetuating the old warders and convicts thing, isn't it?
Yes, yes. It's. I don't think we've reached any problem stage with that, with the amount of POM warders we've got, but it is something we have to be very careful of, that we don't seek to impose an English solution, jail solution, into an Australian one, because the two would not fit together.
Politics in New South Wales always seems as though all things are not quite as they should be. I mean, one is hearing about corruption. There's even corruption suggested in the judiciary here, the federal judiciary, and that's unthinkable, isn't it?
There is one ex-cabinet minister up before the courts at the moment, and that's not decided yet. And among judges, there's been allegations made, and indeed one chief magistrate served time in this jail. It's a real problem, but there's a different attitude to crime in Australia than there would be in Britain. People are not condemned so readily for committing crimes. There's a level of criminal activity which is tolerated, that is things like SP booking, gambling generally, the laws of the road, traffic laws are not adhered to as readily as they may be. There's a whole strata of activities that occur which the community goes along with and does not condemn.
Yet it's much more South American than Anglo-Saxon, isn't it, really?
Yes, I'm not sure that's something to do with the climate, whether people change because of the climate or whatever. But
I mean, corruption seems to be accepted, you know. Certainly there's a fair amount of corruption in the police, which nobody seems to worry too much about. You know, they think, oh, good on him, he got away with it, that kind of thing.
Well,
public morality is very different.
It is. Certainly for the successful crime, the person who's never caught, there's a grudging admiration for them. And that's because in our earlier days, certain characters, again, who were definitely anti-establishment, definitely anti-authoritarian, people like Ned Kelly, who was a vicious murderer and a dreadful character, really. But he's moved into our mythology as a defender of the rights of the ordinary man.
Yes, Robin Hood, isn't it? Butch Cassidy.
And that seeps throughout our community, yes.
But do you detect that in everyday politics now?
No, I don't detect corruption as such. What you do detect is a lack of willingness to set in place the mechanisms which put the frighteners on the crooks, which will catch the big crooks. We catch street crooks in the main and put them into these jails. The very big fellas, the crooked bank lawyers, bank managers, lawyers, accountants, stock exchange agents, and so forth. We don't catch those.
Politicians, judges?
Politicians and judges. Because there are, it's estimated in Australia, for instance, there's $280 million worth of illegal money floating within our system. Now, to have that sort of money, to finance it, you've got to be a very big businessman. You've got to have access to lawyers, to bankers, to agents, to the stock exchange, and so forth. We never catch those people. And yet they presumably are on the boards of companies, they're government advisors, they are bankers and representatives of the community.
It's something you've learned to live with out here.
Yes, our community seems somewhat reluctant to tattle these people.
Down these mean streets, a man must go. London has Soho, New York 42nd Street, and Sydney has King's Cross, where every night many people the community seems reluctant to tackle gather under watchful eyes.
Come on, have a look tonight here, gents. Live shows, not here. Fellas, check it out tonight. Number one strip club here.
The sinful half-world and half-light, the usual seedy mixture of squalor and pathos.
You're right, sir. Have a free look. Live shows non-stop.
Have a look, sir, the video. Live striptease shows, escorts, buck shows, lesbians on stage.
Tonight in Sydney, sleaze is high profile and out of step with the beery machismo and easy embarrassment that was Australia.
Thank you. Great. Hello. Where are you from?
In the vast entertainment centre, some 6,000 homosexuals gather for their annual sleaze ball, from which cameramen are banned. Upon arrival, each is handed 3 condoms to be going on with.
Be safe, get a real girlfriend, I get nothing. You take one first. All right, wait. Surely they're not going to stop at 3 for one night. What do they think? Hi, baby. Get me a load. Take one of those and go. Thank you.
The visual coordinator of this ball comes from Carshalton in Surrey and once worked on display at Fortnum and Mason's. 13 years ago, Jeff Hardy came out. You left a country where being gay was legal, homosexuality was... I took for granted, yes. But you came here to Australia where it was illegal.
Yes.
It was not legal.
Without any consideration, no, because I know that I'm right, and I have the right to be anywhere that I want to be as me. So it wasn't a consideration, but it did mean starting the fight again, or feeling some strength about it, or perhaps anger that it was difficult, or could be difficult for me because of my lifestyle. That never happened, of course.
Did you feel, did you feel any sense of oppression here, having left England where you weren't oppressed at all, I presume?
Oh. Well, not oppressed at all, no, no. Human nature is human nature the world over. So, but it depends. You run into bigots everywhere. It depends what the quantity is and where they come from. And there are a great many, or were a great many in Australia.
Really? It's very hard for me to understand how Sydney has become the gay capital of the Southern Hemisphere.
No, it's very difficult to understand. Brilliant weather, beautiful harbour.
Is that it? But it's sort
reasonable property in the previous years. Yes.
A macho nation. Macho, rather chauvinist nation.
Yes. There are underlying currents through all of that too. I mean, the famous jokes about the sheep, come on, that's Australia.
Yeah.
It's a tough country, but it's a man's country, or has been. The women are only just fighting now.
Thanks. Now, nobody here seems inhibited by AIDS at all. I would have thought this would have cast an air of depression.
No, because it's, with knowledge, there's an awareness. It's, no, it's a fact of life.
But, I mean, you seem to be, I see they're issuing these condoms, and these are...
Yes.
These are, there's some sort of AIDS, hopefully, some sort of AIDS resistance.
Well, of course, any prophylactic would be.
Yes.
From any sexual disease. I mean, that's the way it is. It's a matter of reminding people.
Yes.
But not pushing things down their throats. So, this is the party.
The kind of phrase.
We live a serious life. It's not all frivolity. This is. And it's one of the few occasions where Sydney can really let his hair down. And I think that's very important. But it's also good to have that little reminder of...
No,
it's not.
But I mean, there are what? There are supposed to be 50,000 people here in Australia that already have the AIDS virus.
Well, I don't know where that information comes from. I don't.
But it's not. It doesn't seem to be casting any depression.
No, because people are adjusting their lives. They're living a healthier life. Maybe not tonight, but generally, because it's a very serious matter for the whole world. But if there's no naivety about it anymore. We have the information, we have the backup teams, we have the support, and it's up to the individual, and I think that the individuals here are very responsible.
Are you facing, are Australian gays facing any hostility?
Oh, yes.
By people who say it's a disease of choice, you know?
Yeah, oh, God's wrath, the whole, I mean, we've heard every cliche in the book.
Yeah.
I can't feel guilty. I don't have it though. Perhaps no. It's a world disease. And what caused the plague? Rats.
It was all quite a long way from Chip's Rafferty. I could see they were wondering, who's that freak in the grey flannel? Derek Llewellyn-Jones came to Australia in 1965 and is now Associate Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Sydney University. After writing a number of books on his subject, he's regarded as a sex expert, but doesn't much care for the title. Though since he's 64 and has one son aged 37 and another aged 22 months, it seems he may have been reading his own books. He's not critical of all those goings-on at the Sleaze Ball.
What is rather curious to me is the fact that Sydney has become the homosexual capital of the Southern Hemisphere. And I went the other night to the Sleaze Ball and watched 6,000 gays cavorting around. This is surprising to me.
Not to me, I don't think. No, I think the sequence is quite logical. A lot of the gays had been to the United States. A lot of them had been in San Francisco. And we have a similar environment to San Francisco, I think, here in Sydney. It's fairly relaxed. It was much more relaxed than, say, Queensland or indeed Victoria. And the area of Sydney where I don't think promiscuous gays is right, the more open gays live is pretty easy, and I think people hear about it and you move in. Just as in the United States, a lot of people move to San Francisco from the Midwest.
Certainly at the ball, when we discovered that as you arrived, you were presented with 3 condoms and some lubricating jelly to see you through the evening, I suppose. I don't know whether, is this commendable restraint or is this an encouragement to...
No, I think the gays have been very sensible since the impact of AIDS, that they are promoting safe sex and they are saying reduce the number of partners, but the condom is, in my mind, one of the things which should come back both for heterosexual and for homosexual relationships. I'm in favour of condoms.
Well, so it would appear...
Roll-on condoms, you know, let's bring them into the open.
I notice of the AIDS deaths here, of some 290 odd, only 2 were heterosexuals.
Yep, I think we followed America, and that's why I say this link between San Francisco and Sydney. The AIDS virus got into America from Africa via Haiti, affected the homosexual community, mostly, a few drug addicts are infected, about 20%. And the contact between Sydney homosexuals and the homosexuals of San Francisco probably brought it over here. So it spreads, and it's a worry, and it's not going to go away. So we're back to safe sex. Well, or no sex if you want, but that, for those who like it that way, the best of luck to them, Australian and British.
The battle of the sexes, getting back to heterosexual activity, the battle of the sexes has sometimes seemed quite pronounced here in Australia. The men and women have their definite places here.
Much less than when I came
at opposite ends of the room.
Oh, that's gone, thank God. No, 20 years ago when I came here, I really was horrified to find that the men, as I'd been told, gathered round the keg. Yes. And the women were at the other end of the room, presumably making lamingtons. I don't know if they were.
Or pavlovas.
Or pavlovas.
They did that, but they did it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, but
that's gone.
That's gone a lot. Oh, yes, I think there's much more mixing of the sexes.
This is not just in sophisticated old Sydney. This is everywhere.
That's everywhere. A little bit in the country, it's slower, but it has gone. I think Australia's changed tremendously in the last 20 years.
But aren't Australian women still competing with mateship and beer and footy?
Possibly, just as much as the Brits are competing with soccer and beer and mateship. I don't think there's a huge difference.
There's not much mateship in England, is there?
Has it gone?
I don't think. We're not in favour of it now. No, but here, I mean, mateship was a very high level, wasn't it?
It was high, and it was necessarily so, with a pioneering country going out into the outback, and this tradition kept on. And also, I think the Irish influence is strong in Australia, and I think there's a lot of... It's not called mateship in Ireland. It's the segregation of the sexes in Ireland, and it still occurs in the Irish country, that the men keep away from the women, except for obvious reasons, largely, and I think that's come into Australia. But it's gone a lot here, certainly in middle-class people. I think working class in all countries are much slower to change. They're much more conservative.
Sydney's day is almost over, and the Opera Ball, which is not at all sleazy, opens in the same location, though the contraceptive welcome has been replaced by a fanfare. Society guests are closely observed by Diana Fisher, complete with horns, breastplate, notebook, and gossip columnists gush.
With trumpets sounding and fanfares ringing in our ears, the Australian Opera Company heralded the arrival of their 30th birthday party ball. It was the big one, and big was the operative word. Everyone who's anyone was there. Looking gorgeous in diamond tiara was the Queen of the Ball, chairman of the huge organising committee, Lady Primrose Potter. By the tombola, I found ex-Prime Ministers Malcolm Fraser with his wife Tammy and Sir William and Lady McMahon. Bob Frost and Edmund Capel, John and Caroline Laws, Johnny Baker and Amana Finlay, Channel 7's Ross Simons and his pretty wife, and so it went on and on. A troop of horses cantered in to open the cabaret and stole everyone's thunder. It really was the ball of the year, and 3 o'clock in the morning when I fell into the feathers.